Okay, this is going to be a demo video on how to make a cube. So you're going to take your hardened slab, and you can see it's pretty stiff. It's not super floppy, but it's also not rock hard. This is a leather hard stage. You're going to use your metal rib with the rounded side, and you're going to smooth it out again. Get rid of any of that weird texture from the plastic. Then you're going to take your stencil, and you're going to lay it out, and just going to then cut around your stencil. Try to keep it, and do this slowly. Try to keep it careful and precise. I use an X-Acto knife at this point. You can use a needle tool or a kitchen butter knife or something like that, but you want something a little bit sharp. So you're just going to cut around, and you're going to cut 6 of these, one for each side of the cube. And once they're done, go ahead and pull them apart and set them to the side. See, you can see that they're exactly the same size. Now you're going to take your X-Acto knife, and this is why I like to have an X-Acto knife. An X-Acto knife works best for this technique. Now you're going to, at a 45-degree angle, you're going to bevel each side. And be very careful not to cut your hand or anything like that. You just want to just cut that at a 45, just down to the edge. See, I even have a little bit of a flange there at the bottom, so I'm not cutting off too much. If you cut off too much, then you're going to have a smaller square. One side might be a little off, so you want to be very careful and precise in this method. And then go ahead and do that to all 6 of your pieces. Once you have all 6 beveled, then you're going to need some water, a scoring tool, and a brush. You're going to go around, and every single side that you beveled, which should be all of them, you're going to go ahead and score vigorously. You know, make sure that each side is scored, even the corners. And I usually just go in one direction, and then after I put the water or slip on, I go in the other direction. As you can see right here. So once you have all those done, then you can pick one to be your base. You're going to put water on all 4 sides. And then you're going to score it again to create kind of a slurry on the surface. And now it's really nice to have a banding wheel handy. And I would put a board down or a piece of plastic or a piece of paper because it can stick to the wheel head. I forgot to do that on this demo, and you will see that I had to cut mine off. And you don't want to have to do that. That's just a pain, and it can mess up your piece. So always remember to put something down. And now you're going to pick your piece, and you're going to slip and score the edge that's going to connect. And you can see how, just like in a frame or anything like that, we have this mitered edge. And this mitered edge is going to then create a nice point for us and give it a proper cube on all 6 sides actually. So I'm just kind of pressing that there. So I kind of wiggled it and pressed it up against itself. And then I'm going to take my sponge, get rid of any excess water, and then I'm going to smooth out that joint on the inside. And by doing this, you're also compressing that joint, because any kind of slurry or liquid that comes oozing out of that, you just want to recompress in. And then I'm just going to keep doing this for all 4 sides. And so now the next one, I am going to do both sides that are connect. So slip and score both sides on the form. Make sure that they match up. And then I'm going to start with one and kind of wiggle it in and then lean up and then use both my fingers to both my hands to kind of squeeze them together gently. Don't force it, coax that piece into itself. Okay, and you can see now it has that seam on 3 sides. So I'm going to go ahead and then take my brush, smooth out those sides again. And you want to do this on every time you attach something, as long as you can reach it with the brush, that is. Now you have this little gap here, so I'm going to kind of use my fingertips to kind of push that together even more. Then I'm going to get my metal rib with the rounded side, and then I'm just going to smooth that out and compress it in. So I do one side a little bit, then the other side, and back and forth until that looks nice and clean. And then you can do the same thing with the next one. And just like the one before, I am using my fingertips to slowly coax that seam together, kind of jiggling it just ever so slightly, and then using my brush to smooth out the interior. Get that seam nice and closed. And then again with the metal rib, one side, then the other, and smooth it out. And then this next one, you're going to then do 3 sides. Like the other ones, you were connecting 2 sides together. This one, we're connecting 3 sides together, and we are going to then slip and score all 3 sides. And so for the very top one, we're going to make sure we slip and score all 4 sides very well. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at one side and then just let it set down, and then I'm just going to wiggle it into place, make sure it fits, and you can see that there is almost a perfect fit here, because when I cut these pieces out, I was made sure to cut them out precisely. Use my little mallet there and then tap it down, and voila, it looks like a cube. So then metal rib, smooth out all the sides. Be very cautious to make sure that each seam gets proper attention, or else you might have some cracking or some issues later in the kiln. So we want to make sure that we compress and smooth out each seam back and forth like we have been. So now I'm just taking my paddle and I am just patting each side very, very gently, just making sure to get it nice and squared. And then I'm just going to paddle each side, flip it, and continue on. And this is going to allow that form not only to compress those seams together and get rid of any of that excess flange that's on the edges from smoothing it out, it's also going to get that to be a nice, perfect cube. And then later we can get some more refining, just like we did with the spheres. We can refine this even more once it's stiffened up. So there we go. Perfect cube. But before we're done, we always want to make sure we poke a hole in it. Just like the spheres, if we don't poke a hole in it, it's going to be a disaster. So make sure you poke a hole in it right there. Then set it aside, wrap it really well in plastic, let it stiffen up a bit, and we can refine it. And that's it.